commitment.
Okay. You know who Lord Monckton is, I presume?
I do.
Have you read what he said?
I've read read reports of what he said, yeah.
Have a listen to this.
The science behind global warming has now finally collapsed.
So basically this is Halley's Comet stuff.
Bird flu, it's all these things, peak oil, they're all scared, got up, often by scientists who know that the fastest way to get money out of the state, which now funds 99% of all science, research science is basically a monopoly. There's only one customer, that's the poor old taxpayer, whether we like it or not. And the quickest way for scientists really to get rich and to get attention they can get otherwise is to invent a scare. And they're always doing it. And because politicians are fantastically scientifically illiterate, the scientists get away with this time and again. And this global warming thing has proved to be a really big one, except that there are just a few honest scientists who will not play that game.
I then spoke to Professor Linson, who is regarded by his peers as a world authority on climatology at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and in part, in a long interview on Friday, he said this.
Of course it is, and it was designed to be.
Well, look, our Prime Minister says the cost of inaction on climate change will be much greater than the cost of taking action now. If we don't do anything, the Murray-Darling Basin will be barren in Australia, the Barrier Reef will be destroyed, skiing in Australia will be a thing of the past. I mean, that's being said by Professor Garno, who's the expert advising the Prime Minister on all of this.
Garno knows no science, he's an economist, and he's trying to mimic Stern in the UK because he sees all the rewards that Stern has gotten for making similar claims.
Yeah. Is there such a thing as global warming?
Of course there is. And there's global cooling and the temperature is always changing.
Yep. Do carbon dioxide emissions cause changes in the temperature?
At some level, of course. The important thing is at what level. We're talking about fractions of a degree.
But you've got the President of the United States describing warming as a dire crisis and that combating it will be a high priority in his administration.
It's foolishness. I mean, he's probably never taken a science course in his life, and he has no idea what he's saying, but he's hoping to find a means of taxing people where they'll feel grateful for paying the taxes because they're told it'll save the world.
All of these policies, if what you're saying is correct, are going to do us more harm than good.
Oh, yeah, and on top of that, none of it will have any impact on climate. I mean, Australia's contribution to this will probably, even if it does everything, will amount to, a thousandth of a degree by 2001.
Right. But given that, we now have a price tag on this of multi-trillion dollars.
I mean, there's a good reason why the major banking houses are lobbying for this. They want to be the brokers. I mean, this is going to be an invitation for corruption on a massive scale.
An invitation for corruption on a massive scale.
Oh, yeah.
But yet, right through all of this, those who advocate a contrary position have been derided and treated as dinosaurs. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of scientists who've joined you in dissenting from this sort of quote-unquote orthodoxy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how shall I put it? When the case is as weak as it is for global warming, you have to use that common attacks because, the science just isn't there. They're hoping that the public is sufficiently ignorant of science that if they can cite authorities, nobody will bother to try and figure out what's going on.
But you've got a President of the United States and a Prime Minister of Australia buying all this rubbish.
Yeah, I know, they want it. If you want to control society, here you have a product of breathing. What better device could you have for controlling society? But as long as you still have democracies, eventually these people will lose because of this.
Well, Malcolm Turnbull, you're not a scientist, but you've gone along with the music being played by Kevin Rudd in spite of many people urging you not to. You've been in this boat, rowing seemingly against the tide since you became the leader. What do you say to all that?
Well, Alan, the fact is that every government in the world is working on the basis that there is a process of global warming taking place. It is being caused or substantially contributed to at least by human activities, and we must take steps to reduce our CO2 emissions.
So Professor Linson, the leading climatologist in the world, knows nothing about it. Let me just go on with this then. nowhere have you or Kevin Rudd, and basically they see you as Kevin Rudd light on this, but nowhere...
Well, you may as well say that about your friend John Howard, Alan, because John Howard also took action on climate change, and he also set up an emissions trading scheme. Right. So why don't you get John Howard in here and accuse him of being Kevin Rudd light?
You're the alternative Prime Minister. Look, nowhere in any of this...
But there's a little inconsistency in your personal attacks on me about this.
I'm sure there is.
Because every Conservative leader in the world is taking the same approach.
Yeah, okay.
David Cameron in the UK, John McCain...
Lord Monkton said, scientifically...
They're all conned. Everyone's conned except for you and Lord Monkton. That's your view?
No, I'm not talking. I'm listening to Lord Monkton. Scientifically illiterate. Nowhere, anywhere have you said... and it's not television, have you said, or has Kevin Rudd said anything about this document? This is the draft treaty that no one knew about until I interviewed Lord Monkton last Monday. You've not mentioned the treaty. Kevin Rudd's not mentioned the treaty. And yet these people are going to Copenhagen to sign a treaty as the outcome of COP15, 15,000 environmental jet setters. And here we have a draft agreement in page 122, item 17. Says that developing countries will, quote, that's you, your country, Australia, compensate for damage to the LDCs, the least developed countries, economy, and also compensate for lost opportunities, resources, lives, land and dignity, as many will become environmental refugees. B, Africa in the context of environmental justice should be equitably compensated for environmental, social and economic losses arising from the implementation of response measures. Shouldn't there be some debate about this treaty and about whether or not we should be signing the treaty, or are we just trying to win votes from third world countries? And why haven't you challenged Kevin Rudd on the detail of this?
Well, Alan, the fact is the treaty won't be signed in Copenhagen. There has been a long-standing debate going on about the extent to which there will be, if you like, payments or transfers from the developed world to the least developed countries to enable them to cope with the consequences of climate change.
World?
Well, of course we are, but Alan...
So we'll transfer our economic wealth to countries of the third world?
Alan, we have a lot of foreign aid at the moment. I mean, what we're
not talking about that. We're talking about trillions of dollars here.
No, Alan, people are arguing about trillions of dollars, perhaps.
This hasn't been mentioned, Malcolm. The treaty has not been mentioned, and the treaty that Monkton and Linson are arguing that this has already been agreed to in enclave by the likes of Obama and Rudd and Brown and the Europeans. I don't care whether they have or they haven't. Why aren't the Australian public told that such a document exists? And why aren't Australian people spelled out the detail contained in that document?
Well, look, there is the agreement that results from Copenhagen. I don't think anything will be signed at Copenhagen. Is one that will involve, as did the Kyoto arrangements, provision for assistance to be made to the less developed countries from the richer, countries, the developed world. The question is the way in which it's done, the amount. There is plenty of foreign aid already given to poorer countries.
This is not foreign aid. This is not foreign aid. Clause after clause sets out the requirement. Have you read this? No. The developed countries such as Australia pay it's called an adaptation